Peace to the gods and peace to the goddesses. Welcome to the rug pool. I am Darth Flocka, the Padawan alchemist. All right, tonight or whenever you watching this, all right, we're going beyond the veil. Beyond the veil, beyond the hidden mysteries of these stories, these teachings, that most people are following from these religious texts. All right, namely that of the Bible. All right. Now, we have to understand throughout history, there has been in every culture what is considered a mystery school or some type of mystery cult, mystic cult, mystery group, or something of that nature that was actually dealing with the esoteric teachings. Okay. Nowadays, we have everybody going crazy, arguing back and forth about exoteric teachings, you know, mythological teachings that are in the or mythological stories that are in these books that people are arguing about the validity or the truth or the meaning or the interpretation when, at the end of the day, it's all mythology, but what's interesting is the stories that are in the Bible, the way that it was written and constructed, it was also based on a certain mystery school, and that mystery school being that of ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet. And what's interesting about that is when you go through and you look at all of these texts in these or all these stories in these books, you see hints of, esoteric teachings inside exoteric stories, right? So we're going to go beyond the veil and pretty much break down what it is that they saying in some of these stories and how to correctly interpret what we're seeing, or at least get an understanding of why it was written a certain way. Okay? Because we have to understand this whole mystery school, this mystery section. People talk about secret societies and what they learning and whatnot. All that stuff is based on, most of it is a perverted version, but it all stems back from ancient Egypt. Okay? Ancient Kemet, whatever you want to call it. Nowadays people want to say whatever. All right. It's called Kemet, right? Now, going back to the ancient mystery school, in Kemet, there were teachings on how to take your spirit from that of the mundane, okay, and that from the base level, and take it to the top superior God level, highest potential that your spirit can go here on earth. Okay, they called it the Christ spirit now, or the Christ consciousness, or whatever the case may be. The first Christ was that of Osiris. All right. And Osiris was the first resurrected. Now, the majority of the rest of the story is based on Osiris's son, which is Heru, Horus. Okay. Now, understanding that this is basically the premise and the main drama that has been remixed and remastered through all of these different ancient mystery schools, right? From the Greeks, from the Egyptians, from the Persians, the Romans, the goddamn, you name it. The Masons, all these people got they shit from ancient Kemet and took some shit and remixed and remastered it. And that's no different when we deal with the Bible, okay? When we deal with these texts that are being taught, okay? And the world's biggest religion and shit like that, all right? Now, when we look at it, we have to understand, all right? The Bible is a compilation of earlier mythologies from around that region, all right? And what's really close to Israel? Egypt, okay? This is why the main characters in the story are all associated with Egypt, okay? Now, when you look at the Bible in comparison to some of these other religious texts, they all have similar stories. They all have stories that could be taken and should be taken as allegorical, like a lot of the earlier mythologies. That was the only thing that has people and Christians really thrown for a loop in this, what the argument is really about. They've basically taken the allegorical stories in the Bible and they've historicalized it. All right. That is a product of the Romans. Okay. The Romans were so much trying to take over the world that they needed a religion in which to use to unite all the people and then basically enslave all the people under one religion, and that was the Christian religion. And you have to understand it wasn't nothing that was original, but it was also something that wasn't fully pieced together. Hence why they had 8 councils in the Council of Nicaea. They actually finally figured out how they was going to compile these books and this text and make it believable enough to go actually preach on Africans and other people around the world, pagan Europeans and just indigenous people around the world. Um, Now, the Romans took these mythological stories that were always known through every other culture as myth, and they historicalized the Christ figure. Now, the Christ figure is nothing new per se. Okay, if you look up how many different Christs there were before Christ, there was lots of Christ before Christ. Okay, the first Christ being Osiris. Let me see. First Christ being Osiris. All right. Now on his mummy was KRST, the Christ or the Christ mummy. All right. Like I said, the first resurrected comes from a story that predates Christ by a lot. Okay. If you pass elementary school with actually studying the Bible and its history, you'll know that there's plenty of other stories. Dionysus, Krishna, you know what I'm saying? Bacchus, all of these different stories similar to Christ, but all stemming from Osiris. All right. Now, when dealing with the mysteries, you have to understand it's not just me saying, oh, it just all comes from Egypt and all this, that, and the third, whoop-de whoop. No, that's real talk. Hold on, let me grab this book. All right, this is coming from the book of Acts, chapter 7, verse 22. Let's look at it. What does it say? And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds. And when he was a full 40 years old, it came to his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. Okay. The Greek, when the Greeks had their own mystery school and they understood what was going on, okay, and they was the ones who wrote the New Testament. So when they were compiling this, they made sure to make mention that this man Moses was learned in Egypt, and it wasn't until he was 40 years old is when he actually came unto the children of Israel. Now that's real symbolic when you study these ancient mystery schools, okay? Now, when you look at the Freemasons, these people are giving out degrees real fast, okay? The first degree in the original craft of masonry in Egypt was 3 years. Second degree, 5 years. Third degree, 7 years, so forth and so forth. So you see Moses didn't go till he was 40 years old. What was he doing this whole time? They're showing you that this man was actually learning everything that, was going down in Egypt as far as the mysteries and the higher teachings. Okay? This is where you get the majority of the commandments in the Torah from. They come from the 42 laws of Mayat. Okay? And that was just the law of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? So these people coming out of Egypt and these laws, you know what I'm saying? He took some from them. Okay, like I said, the whole story is not even real, but you see where they got all of them even teachings from. Okay, it was from the laws of Mayat. All right, now it says Moses was learned in all of the wisdom of the Egyptians. Okay, and Moses is a very prominent figure in the Torah, in the Bible, in the New Testament. They speak of Moses. Christ speaks of Moses. This is a very prominent figure, especially for the Judaism. Okay, for the Jews, for Israelites all around the world that claim these people as lineage, even though Moses never existed. He's a very prominent figure nonetheless. Now, understanding and seeing that, we have to understand, if we're dealing with esoteric and exoteric teachings, you have to understand that they are telling you in this book, this is the King James Bible. Okay, King James Version. I got all types of Bibles and books and Strong's Concordance, all types of shit to break this shit down. Okay, I used to follow the Israelite, you know what I'm saying? Whoop-de wobbity whoopity whoop. Okay, but you keep reading and studying, and you will unlock more and more and more. You can't take everything you believe is surface level. Okay, once you understand that there's esoteric teachings out there to everything, every story, well, that's when the shit gets fun. Because all the stories you done learned and goddamn, following whatever you follow, now you can take it and actually apply it to you in yourself and not have to sit there and worry about a mass group of people or just, people in general. This is all about you. You are the one that's living this life. You are the one that's having to play this damn game and to deal with this incarnation. So it's best to figure out what the hell these motherfuckers has been teaching for the past 2,000 years in the real way, though. Okay, so clearly we setting the stage and letting you guys know ancient Egypt is where all the mysteries started. The pyramid, what they was doing, the rituals, all of that, ancient Egypt. Kemet. Straight like that. Moses learned in Kemet. He learned in ancient Egypt. Okay, so you have to understand. They wrote this very, very interesting. Okay, so when this man came out of Egypt, and mind you, there's a whole lot of mythology in there. He's allegedly up there talking to God on this mountain, getting these commandments, which were already in Kemet, right? But here's what the Bible says. This is really interesting. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 34, verse 33. I'm gonna show y'all. Let me show y'all. Okay. It says, until Moses had done speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. Okay, so look. Moses, when he was speaking to the children of Israel, right? They said when he came down from talking to the Most High, this is talking to the God of Israel, right? When he came down talking to, God or whatever, they say he put a veil on his face when he spoke with these people. And if you know the story, he's giving these people these commandments from God, right? And the whole time he's giving these commandments, he has this veil on his face. Now, somebody who is taking this story literally and reading it from an exoteric point of view, they're going to literally be thinking that Moses was talking to these niggas like Kanye West with a goddamn mask on his face. Or a goddamn something that a woman will wear when she about to get married or some shit like that. That is the exoteric teaching, okay? That is the surface level allegorical. The veil is an allegory for exoteric, okay? When Moses was in Egypt and he learned all of the wisdom, like it says in the book of Acts chapter 7, when Moses learned all of the wisdom, aka was initiated into the mystery schools, he brought that information to his people. But when he was speaking to his people, being that they were not as a mass all initiated, and nor could they all understand the mysteries of the teachings, he had to put a veil on, aka give them the teachings in an exoteric manner. Okay, give them fairy tales and fables and things of that nature. That's how the whole book is laid out. But he gave them these laws in a very moralistic way. Okay, the Torah is the moral law. Okay, but once you graduate from just following a certain doctrine, you understand moral law. That's just the basics. You don't need no goddamn book to tell you not to steal nothing. Okay, if you actually have a real soul that's connected with the universe, and she ain't finna be stealing from nobody. You know what I'm saying? You ain't finna be going after nobody's wife. You ain't finna be doing a lot of this book is telling you not to do. Okay, and some of the bullshit that this motherfucking book is telling you not to do, your ass need to be running to it. Straight like that. That's for another video. All right. Right now we dealing with Moses, the initiate. Okay. Moses was initiated in the mystery school in Kemet. He leads his people in a rebellion. This is just a story, right? And when Moses was speaking to these people, he symbolically puts a veil on, right? Okay. What about a little bit later when these people were what about a little bit later when these people was walking through the Exodus and they started getting bit by scorpions and whatnot? Okay, and people started falling ill and some people was dying and shit, you know, and the people didn't know what to do. And what did Moses, what did this God tell Moses? Okay, the veil, the veil. God told Moses to take a staff and take a broad, I think it was a brass serpent, and put the brass serpent on the top of the staff. And he said anyone that looked upon the staff would be saved. Now that's very interesting because in the very first chapter or the very first book of the Bible or the Torah, you know, the serpent is the bad guy, you know. The snake is the cursed one and this, that, and the third. And then in the second book, okay, what do we see? We see the serpent actually being the savior. You know, they said God told Moses to take that brass serpent and put it on his staff and on the top of his staff. He made to say that symbolically, okay? And anyone that looked on it would be saved. That is symbolically for taking the kundalini and rising the kundalini up to the top. All right. And that's when you unlock God mode and shit like that. All right. So knowing that, that's literally an exoteric story that people are reading. Like, yeah, Moses really took a brass serpent and people was looking at it and being saved. What? That's like believing that these people actually walked and then this nigga Moses with that same staff goddamn parted the Red Sea. You know? Now, you see, I mean, or what else do you do with the staff? You turn the staff into the snake, but they also put in that damn book that it said the Egyptians was able to do that same shit. Because that little magic trick that Moses tried to put on them, where the hell you think he learned that shit from? Where you think he learned it from? Okay, so you go all the way throughout the damn scriptures and you'll see each story is exoteric, but it has an esoteric meaning. And you have to understand the number one thing that this shit is all about is alchemy. Period, point blank. All of these teachings are teaching you different alchemical steps and processes. What did it say? In the story I just gave y'all with the Israelites in the wilderness, it said if you take the serpent and put it on the brass, take the serpent and put it on the top of the pole, you'll be saved. You'll be healed. The serpent is resting at the bottom of the base of the belly, and the pole is literally your spinal cord. Okay? That's what that story is talking about. It's talking about raising your kundalini up. Period, point blank. You look at Christ. Jebus, we ain't gonna call him Christ because there's been many Christs, you know what I'm saying? Jebus, you know, how does his story go? When he come on the scene, what he do? He goddamn flee to India. I mean, not India. When he come on the scene, he flee to damn Egypt. They trying to kill everybody and looking for this one boy, and then where they flee to? Kemet, right? And then Jeba's ass disappeared for like 17 years and then popped back up on the scene with the symbolic number 33. You know, dying at 33. Where was he at for all those years? Learning in the mystery schools in Egypt. And if you look at the ancient lost texts that go along with the Bible, in his story, he also traveled over to India, Tibet, and all them other places in the Far East. Why? Because that time, 2,000 years ago, shit, there was no fake yoga you be seeing these motherfuckers doing on a goddamn yoga mat. All right, that was the real deal. This ain't no damn fake ass Reiki you be seeing these motherfuckers doing, talking about, you know what I'm saying, spirit fingers and shit. And hell no. This is the real deal Reiki that was from 2,000 years ago when Jeebus came back talking about he was healing motherfuckers and he was the... How many Christ healers are there around the world right now on today that are still healing their people? There's people in Africa right now that don't got no St. Joseph's Hospital, no St. Peter's Catholic Hospital, don't got no Shriners Hospital, don't got no VA Veteran Hospital. No, they have roots. They got some of that rum. You know what I'm saying? They got herbs and all other types of shit. Okay, they got real natural Christs out here. So don't let no one story fool you into thinking that this power only can reside in one person. That whole story is talking about yo ass. All right? That's the key. They got people thinking that the teaching was actual literal history when it's always been a mystery, but an allegory. Okay? The whole Osirian drama of Osiris and all of that, that's all a myth. It's mythology. All right? It's all mythology, but it's all dealing with alchemy. Osiris was the god of the triple black. Okay? Straight like that. The god of the perfect black. Okay? That was Osiris. When you understand alchemy, Kim means black. Okay? So alchemy, the blackening. Okay? This was the study of the melanin, all types of shit. That's where the magic lies. The magic was lying in us. In what is in you. They dormant. What lies dormant inside of you, inside of the deepest parts of your subconscious. This is what all of this is talking about. Unlocking that part of you. Okay, so when you sit and talk about I and the Christ are one and you are one and this is... Read between the line. Okay, we got cut off for a second, but listen. If Christ is saying, and I and the Father are one and all of this oneness and all that, you have to see what we're talking about. We're dealing with esoteric, you know what I'm saying? And then they say Christ. Or Jeebus, my bad. You know, many Christ. They say, Jeebus, listen, why you always talking in parables and shit? Because this man was initiated into all of these different mystery schools. From Egypt over to India, Tibet, all of these different mystery schools he was initiated into. All right? And he had to talk in parables because... he can't, and there's also some stories that say this motherfucker was actually spilling too much of the beans to the public on how to unlock this Christening within you. You know? He might have been spilling too much, and you know what happened, you know, I believe, what was it? Was it Plato's people? Aristotle, one of them motherfuckers, they was cutting out tongues and shit back in Greece trying to get some of that information. They went back and was learning in Kemet, you know, and coming back to Greece with the shit. So all throughout these texts, you know what I'm saying, there's prevalent information as far as the exoteric and the esoteric. All throughout the Bible, especially once you understand that there is a veil. Okay, you understand the alchemical process for the spirit. Mental alchemy, spiritual alchemy. Okay, all of these different stages in the spiritual development are all laced throughout this biblical text, okay? The Christian pastors are getting rich, robbing niggas, telling people lies, okay? Telling people that there was actually somebody walking around with dusty ass sandals on 2,000 years ago who died on the damn cross and goddamn rose again. And if you study the damn history of the text, the first versions of the damn story didn't even have Jeebus even dying, goddammit. Didn't even have his ass dying, okay? So I find that interesting as well. There's another person other than Moses that people like to bring up a lot, okay? And he's somebody that I find very fascinating, another mythological being or character, you know? But nonetheless, very interesting. And we are going to be talking about Enoch. Okay, everybody loves talking about Enoch, Nephilim, you know, fallen angels and things of that nature. But there's some things that people don't really understand, okay? When people are talking about Enoch, they have to understand that Enoch is not a literal person, okay? And the teachings that Enoch was bringing out was not just, things to be taken literal. No, these are mysteries, okay? Enoch was initiated into the same mystery school in Kemet or prior or whatever that Moses was. Literally, if you don't believe me, let's take a peek at the Strong's Concordance. People talking all this shit about Enoch. They don't even know what Enoch name even means. We won't talk about the Nephilim. We're talking about mystery schools and cults and whatnot. What does his name mean? Look, Enoch's name mean initiated. Alright. It means initiated. So you have to understand we're dealing with mystery teachings. Okay? When you see all these different stories talking about fallen angels and creatures and giants and you know what I'm saying, things of that nature, you have to understand that these are things that are allegorical, talking about things that have to do with us as human beings, okay? Anything that the Christian church has made hideous and grotesque and has called some form of demon and shit like that, you have to understand it's the good shit. If you actually have critical thinking and can use your brain and look at history and can see with your two eyes what the Christian church has done to the world, what the Catholic church has done to the world. If they said the shit is bad, nigga, you need to be running to the damn shit. I'm trying to tell y'all, okay? Trying to tell y'all, okay? So when they talking about fallen angels and angels that was kicked out of heaven, well, if these gods are non-existent and these gods clearly don't give a fuck about shit, if you look like me, they don't give a fuck about your ass. All right. What the fuck do they, you know what I'm saying? Fuck them gods up there, because clearly they ain't got shit, you know what I'm saying? No, they talking about fallen angels and people getting kicked out of heaven for what? That's the shit you got to look and see for what. Like I said, there's a lot of stories involved in it, but you have to understand the mythology behind it. But here's one book. I think I've read from this before. This is The Lost Light by Alvin Boyd Kuhn, right? But there's a specific part in here, okay, that I like to bring out because it's interesting, okay? And I have to show y'all so you don't think all right? It says, the tradition of man having lost its paradise, having been cast out of heaven and thrown into a prison, a dungeon, a pit, a lake of pitch, a dark cavernous underground where suffering was intensified by fire, was almost universal in the background of theological belief over a long period of time. Okay, this wide possession might have remained highly instructive had not Milton, in common with all save isolated group of Hermeticists, which were the Moors, black people in Europe, everybody else lost the signal knowledge, okay, that the fallen angels, the rebel hosts, the armies of Satan, and Lucifer were collectively man himself, and that the fiery lake that which they were hurled unto was just our good earth. Okay, in a whole lot of words, all the ancient texts back in the day, when they talk about the underworld, when they talk about the lake of fire, the dark cavernous pit, the pit, hell, Hades, Sheol, all of that shit is talking about our physical earth that we're living in right now. Okay? So when you read stories of Enoch talking about how, where's it at? The angels come down here and they're teaching men how to make swords, knives, shields, breastplate, taught men about the metals of the earth, the art of working it. What the fuck is wrong with that? Now, you minus the whole mythological shit and the fairy tale aspect that they got going on. What's wrong with, all the shit they're teaching? Okay? Teaching counter spells, root cuttings, astrology, constellations, the knowledge of the clouds, the signs of the earth. All these fallen angels is teaching mankind these things. Okay? And we got some people that come down here on earth and teach people all types of shit, So all I'm saying is this. When you look at Enoch's name actually it means initiated. So if you understand that this whole shit is dealing with a mystery school, mystery cults, mystery groups, where you had to have some sort of, you know what I'm saying? They wasn't just giving out this type of information to the regular random person. This type of information is not for your regular person. Like, your regular person wants to deal with the exoteric and the stories that make them feel good. You know what I'm saying? Let them actually believe that a man got swallowed by a fish for 3 days. You know? Let them believe all the shit that, let them, hey, because the people who are on earth at this point in time, or whose souls actually got caught back up down here and casted back out, like a fallen angel, their soul and their spirit will gravitate towards the actual mysteries of the real teaching, the actual mystery, the deeper meaning behind the teaching, not how I can see if I can twist this scripture to fit a Christian agenda or Islamic agenda or whatever else agenda that there is, a Jewish agenda. No, what is the actual esoteric meaning behind the story? All right. Don't be spooked out by the shit that they be putting in these books. That's how they spook motherfuckers out. You do your research and do your deep sea diving into some of these aspects, especially the fallen angel aspect. You'll see that actually has a lot of similarities and a lot in common with us as humans. Okay, because all throughout all the text, the underworld, even when dealing with the Kamite, ancient Egyptian mythology, Osiris, Horus. I just talked about this on one of the other mystery session videos I had out there, about a week ago, about the underworld and people. When you read these underworld texts, right, it's actually describing Earth. What kind of underworld got lakes and rivers and streams and, you know what I'm saying? All this type of shit. Like, hey, yo, you got to use your brain, okay? But a lot of this shit is not actually on the surface. That's the exoteric. People think that these people back in ancient Egypt, you let the Egyptologists teach you, they'll tell you that these people worship multiple deities and all these different neters and all the different gods in Egypt are all different deities, and it was polytheistic and all this extra shit, and only Akhenaten made it a monotheism or whatever. Akhenaten is who Moses is based off of. But here's the thing: all of those deities in ancient Kemet were all different aspects of the one true all source. Some people call it God, whatever. I call it the divine, chaotic, feminine, cosmic, primordial blackness of water, aka just the second verse of the Bible, Genesis 1, chapter 2. You know, so, like I said, when you break down all these scriptures and you at least look at them from a surface level, always know whenever you see any of these different mythologies and you see these stories that people are taking serious and literal, and in some cases they may not, but just know there's always an esoteric teaching or meaning behind it that has to do with an alchemical process to unlock certain components of your soul. That's what all of these texts are. That is what they was doing and dealing with in the mystery schools and whatnot. There is no God. All of that shit that they're praying to in the exoteric churches. Those people are lost in sauce, giving their 10% of their church, their money as tithes for 52 weeks to an untaxed organization. It's kind of mad, all right? But hey, Christianity's been the biggest scam since it came out, okay, and also the most bloodiest, biggest scam since it came out. But like I said, the people who wrote those books and the people who have been able to decipher it, a whole lot of information with the Gnostics and things of that nature. But there's a certain way to read the book. Understand that they've laced it with people who were initiated into certain mystery schools. Enoch, Moses, they tell you where they was at and what they was tapped into. It's up to you to figure out what it is they was tapped into in Kemet. It's a little bit of information out there. I'll be bringing forth a little bit at a time, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot to bite off. And I know some people still deal with the exoteric, but just know that those stories that they are all up and through, the Bible and whatever other religious text they got out there, none of them are real. All right? None of them are real. They're all allegorical. That in some religions stay allegory, and in the Christian religion or Judeo religion, and also Islamic religion, since they use and incorporate all the same mythological niggas that's in all these other books. Yeah, those are typically allegory. Okay, they use some historical figures just to pull a wool over your motherfucking eye, but that don't mean shit. All right, it's all allegory. Understand that people was initiated into certain mysteries, and that these books are out for your ass to solve the mystery. Peace to the gods, peace to all the goddesses. Ashe.